Welcome to Clicks and Bricks Podcast. We talk about the entrepreneur mindset.
If you get one shot at this, what kind of shot are you going to take?
If we forget who we are, they're going to forget who you are.
You've got an adversity story that's out of this world.
Everything from that Main Street brick and mortar to that billion-dollar manufacturer.
Welcome back to Clicks and Bricks. Today I'm with Matt with Reconstructing Wealth, and I am excited about this episode. I think we're going to do a little sidestep and talk about some random stuff, but we're going to do a deep dive and learn a little bit more about Matt and what he does. How you doing today, Matt?
Hey, really good, man. Thanks for having me on, Ken. It's such an honor to be on the show.
Thank you for joining us today. We're excited to learn about you and who you are. Before we go into the questions, can you just give the audience about who you are, what led you to entrepreneurship, and then specifically into the wealth management side of the world?
Yeah, I've always been a bit of a zigger when people zag, if you can say that. Like I've always kind of like gone to the beat of my own drum. So I'm happy to go in all the directions that we talked about, that we just said, like, we might go in all kinds of tangents. It's fine. I have an eclectic background. So I started actually my life, like my sole focus when I was young, I wanted to play baseball at the highest level. That was like, I wasn't alone in that as a childhood boy. I mean, like when I graduated, which we had a graduation yearbook for our preschool graduation. I'm not sure if everybody has that, but under the "what do you want to be when you grow up" section, I wrote baseball player, which like I said, there was others. There was firefighters and astronauts, and I kind of held on to that as a bit of a proclamation, I think. I'm not going to pretend to say at the moment I said, I'm going to do this and hear me roar kind of thing. But like, I knew I loved it. And I had these visions of me doing that at the highest level, and I chased it. And 20 years later, I finally was done playing the game, but I got all the way through and played college ball, drafted twice, and eventually played with the Royals for 5 seasons in their minor league system. So early on, not at 6, but probably more like 14, I really started to recognize I got a chance at like maybe playing in college. I wasn't even out. I was unrealistically realistic. Like I already knew that the statistical odds of getting to play Division I baseball were like heavily stacked against me. So that's the unrealistic expectation that I can still do it. But at the same time, I was kind of realistic, saying like, but the big leagues would be pretty tough. Like that was my mindset. But even with that, I knew, because the odds were so low, I couldn't compare my efforts and what I was doing on a day-to-day basis to my teammates, because the majority was like, they weren't going to make it. They weren't going to live the life that I felt called to live. I'll put it like that. So if I felt like I needed to do something that they probably weren't going to do, it would be insane for me to think that I could do everything that they were still doing and have a different result on the end of it. So even early on, I like started getting up early in the high school and working out, and I cared about my nutrition when nutrition wasn't a thing. And I just started like reading stuff on like personal training and fitness and transferring. Like I read Ted Williams' Science of Hitting when I was like 10. Anyway, I'm setting up kind of the I guess my body of work, my life. I've always been a bit of a contrarian. I'm not a poster child for conformity, we'll put it that way. I now am married 15 years this month in about a week. I have 7 children who we homeschool. I started this wealth management business at 40 years old with 7 kids as the sole provider. So don't tell me it's too late to start something. And don't tell me that like you can't out crazy a crazy person. So I recognize though, the through line through all of that really has been like, I've always felt like I was running to something, like I was being called to something. Like my faith's pretty important to me. So in the mornings, I'm in my quiet time, pretty intentional with listening to feeling like, where am I being pulled in my heart? And though that journey, even though it's a bit disconnected from like baseball to finance staffing to wealth management, has always felt like I was being led somewhere and I was running to it. I was never running from something. Do you know what I mean? So that's really been the through line. And I guess like, that has led to a quite unconventional life and an unconventional path. But to me, it just feels like who I'm supposed to be. So that's a long-winded intro, I suppose, of who I am. But I hope I didn't lose everybody on that one.
Lots of great stuff, man, that we can dive into. I want to go way back to the beginning. You said zig and zag. One of the things that I do is I'm a boxing coach. I have a boxing school that I designed and deployed. I've got some great fighters on my team. I tell the buffalo cow story about how buffaloes run into the storm and
Yes.
cows run away from it. And I recall I telling my daughter when she was really young, I don't even remember what was going on, but there was a big crowd of people moving one direction. And I remember telling her, like, anytime you see a lot of people moving in a one direction, try to get off to the side and just go the other way.
Wow.
Just try to do that. And that methodology has saved me more times in my life than I could possibly imagine. Also made me miss out on some things that the normal path for a lot of people, but I think it's also kept me on the track that I'm at. So I just want to talk
Man,
a little bit more about zigging versus zagging and going against the
yeah.
grain versus with the grain. And why?
Oh man, I can't tell, like what you just described brought me this vivid story, this image in my head of I remember my first day with a big boy job, with business. I had a child. I just had my child, first child, and I was now the sole provider with zero job. I had to go back after playing baseball to finish my degree. So I really was in this like, what the heck am I doing life stage. So I was really like, for the first time ever, felt like I was falling in line to do what I'm supposed to do. Like my whole life prior to that, I was going against the grain. Like I was beating statistical odds. I was doing things that others weren't doing because I was chasing something they would never want to chase. And then all of a sudden I have a child, I got a degree, and I go and get this like finance staffing job and I wear a suit and it's the first day. And I took a train. I was living in Massachusetts at the time, and I took a train to Boston and I got off the train, and I have never felt so out of place and such a pit in my stomach as I had when I got off that train, because it was like a bunch of cows or sheep or whatever animal you want to use that like mindlessly head down, earbuds in or whatever, like looking at their phones, all just sort of legitimately being funneled to the escalator out of the train station to go about their business. And I remember having a bit of a panic moment there where I stopped and watched everybody and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? This is not where I belong. But I went on, and 4.5 years later, finally like left that life. But I did it for a season, and it was hard, man. It was really hard to do what felt like you're supposed to do when when you have this like burning desire in your heart to not live a life like everybody else, yet you are currently living a life like everybody else, you know? Um, and I'm grateful that in that role, I learned sales and I learned meeting people. I understood. And in all of my meetings, it was this like 100 dials a day, 10 meetings a week. Like it was a lot. But in those meetings, I met this guy named Ben Beck, who is the managing partner of the old wealth management firm I was at. And he took a flyer on me. It was not intended to be like a job interview. It was one of me just like doing what I'm supposed to do, checking a box, hitting my KPIs for the big publicly traded company I worked for. And he was like, man, you'd be great in my industry. Have you ever considered it? And admittedly, I said no at first because like I had been courted by some advisors when I was playing baseball, thinking I was going to make a bunch of money one day. Like jokes on them. I fooled them. I never made the big leagues, but I learned what they did. And I was also in finance staffing. So I learned finance and I had this network of finance people. And I was unimpressed with what most did because most sounded like the same. And I was like living this 4.5 years of the same, like I'm that sheep getting off this train, and I couldn't stand it. So I said no at first because I didn't want to continue. I knew I wanted to chart a new and different path. I just kind of lost who I was for a little while because of baseball being taken from me. That was the path I was charting that was unlike everybody else. And then I didn't know what that next thing was supposed to be.
I'm in this existential argument with my wife and daughter at the moment. I think
Okay,
it's a mistake
explain.
for her. Well, one, she got into a really great film school and she decided to go to a really good educational school. She loves the stage, and I'm frustrated with her not going. I feel like it's, hey, I'm not chasing my dreams. I
Mm,
don't know I don't know very many happy teachers. I know a lot of happy retired teachers.
mm.
So, I'm frustrated with her. And now I'm even kind of like, hey, you probably shouldn't even be going to school because we don't know. what the future looks like right now.
Mm.
When you're on the bus and you see all those people in the suits and they're doing the same thing, and you call them sheep or people or humans doing their job, right? They're just going through the day. Call them normal people. Are they fulfilled?
Sure didn't look it. And from my interactions, most didn't seem it. Most seemed to live for the weekend, like not necessarily go party and stuff, just like they did what they needed to do so that they could go enjoy their free time on the weekend. And like, presumably, if you expand that beyond the week, they're doing what they need to do for 40 years or whatever it is, so that in retirement, they can enjoy their life. And I think to myself, like, what a missed life you just lived, missed opportunities all throughout the way. Like, I'm on a relentless pursuit to build a life I don't need to take a vacation from. That's what my goal is.
Doesn't appear to me that people are fulfilled. I think they're happy and they find joy, but I don't know that people are fulfilled, or the majority of the people that I talk to today. And that makes me sad. I want to talk about building your life too, but I've got some words down here and I want to come back to them because you were talking about chasing, but you said building yourself. Why do you think I was never taught maybe I was never taught in a way that it solidified in my mind that I am responsible for how I come out, that it's my responsibility to make the decision on the kind of person that I'm going to be. I was under the impression for a long time in my life that I was just a thing that existed on this planet, and I just was the way I was.
Mm.
And I think a lot of people just believe that they are ADHD or autism or bipolar, or, I think it feels to me like most people believe they just are who they are and they don't have any control over that.
Mm-hmm.
And that aggravates the hell out of me. And I would love to hear your thought processes on that.
Well, you and I can get along well because I also get super aggravated by those people, because what they're effectively saying is like, I'm unwilling to grow and that I'm unwilling to improve. And I'm not saying like, if you have autism and you can just will yourself to not have it. I'm not, I want to acknowledge that like there are illnesses and there are diseases and people have them and you need to address them and pay attention to it. But what I'm hearing you say is that person who sits in like it's that there's that one, what's that machine that you step on at the airport that just like takes you to the next destination without having to walk? It's like a, horizontal escalator. I don't even know what you call it. Anyway, it's like that. The tram, they step on that version of life and they're like, well, this is my life and this is who I am and this is what we're supposed to do because everybody does it. To me, it's denying who you're created to be. And I think that that's a problem. I think we are all created to do something special on this earth in our own way. And I think that if we deny that, we all have that, I think, in our hearts where we feel like we know there's something. And to me, we deny that. We deny who we're created to be. I have this vision of, I've heard it said before, so I didn't create this. I just keep it in my mind that when we die, and if you go to heaven, if you believe in that, like, let's just say this isn't biblical, this is just made up. But like, if you go to heaven and you meet God and he has a mirror and he holds it up to you, I think my biggest fear, truthfully, would be that I don't recognize the person in the mirror because the mirror is the person he created you to be. And if I don't I don't even see who that person is, that means I just never lived to my fullest potential. And I can't relate to somebody who's not on that same journey of like trying to grow, to see who you really are created to be. And I thank my years of baseball because it was fun, but also I had so many coaches that came down hard on us to say the game doesn't owe you anything. It's on you to become whoever you're going to be in this game. You don't deserve a single thing. The game doesn't owe you a single thing. You are going to get out of this game what you put into this game. And like, little did I know, in that early 20s version of me, I was learning one of the best life lessons I'd ever learned, because substitute life for baseball. And that's the reality. I think a lot of people feel like they're owed something and they deserve something in life by virtue of working hard or being a good person. And it's like, life doesn't owe you anything. Like you owe yourself to grow into whoever you, like, to your point, whoever you feel like you're supposed to be. That's on you to sort of become that butterfly out of the cocoon.
Yeah, I want to have a little fun and maybe get in trouble. And you seem like a person that I can have these conversations with.
Oh, you got about to get me canceled. It's great.
So I want to talk about that direction and faith and being called to something versus running towards something or running away from something,
Yeah.
and an attitude that I've recently adopted in life. Because I'll tell you, I'm 50 years old, and until I got really close to 50, I was a hustler. I was running from something for a long time, running towards things that I thought I wanted, across the board. And I think it's interesting that you say, that at the end, maybe there's this mirror of your perfect self. And I'm thinking more along the lines of gravity today and being the most authentic version of you.
Mm,
And when you become the most authentic version of who you are, and what I mean by that is doing the shit that makes you the happiest the most frequently throughout your day, that creates a gravity, and you don't have to run anywhere anymore. The things that you want just start coming to you.
mm,
And there's so many things that I enjoy doing that I find that, there's only 24 hours in a day. And I want to hear your thought process on, you know, going after something versus just executing on your highest desires. What
yeah.
would be the difference and how does that look?
Man, have you ever read work by Joe Dispenza? He's a
I listen to Joe almost for probably 30 minutes a night before bed.
really okay. I was gonna say what you're talking about is a lot of stuff like Joe Dispenza. Actually, as it relates to finances, I always encourage people to read this book called Happy Pocket Full of Money. But it's very similar as it's an identity toward finances specifically. But like what you're saying is the energy you create, you give off, the visions you have of your future, like you live into that person and you kind of visualize and replay those so many times in your mind that like when your future finally happens, it catches up to what your head says. Joe actually said it, like it's almost like remembering your future, which is a weird statement to say unless you really understand what like visualization and what kind of energy you carry into rooms. I think you're spot on. I think you need to live the authentically you version of you. And I also believe that people in general are happiest when they're serving others in some way, shape, or form. Like most fulfilled, excuse me. They are most fulfilled, I think, when they are operating in their giftedness, whatever that is, in the service of other people. I think that like that human connection is really powerful. I also think that those people who deny the idea that like you don't give off an energy that's just woo woo stuff, which it does sound woo woo, especially if you listen to some of Joe. You're like, what are you talking about? But I would challenge those people to say like, do you have the ability to walk in a room and if somebody's in a really terrible mood, can you identify that before saying a single word to that person? And I mean, 10 out of 10 times they're like, yeah, for sure, you could do that. And I'm like, why do you think that is? Right? Like that's kind of answering the question. We do carry something, and we will emit something, some version of energy to people, and people will pick up on that. And I think if you sit into that, like that happiest, highest, most enlightened version of you, you tend to attract and bring into your life those types of people that also vibrate at that frequency, operate at that same wavelength.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt, I'll tell you, I didn't care about any of this stuff 4 years ago. Right.
Hmm.
I was, I hadn't been a best-selling author yet. A lot of things hadn't happened to me that have happened to me now 4 years ago, and I didn't care about those things 4 years ago. But, I get it's 3.5, maybe 4 years ago. GPT 3.5 came out. Maybe it's 2 years ago now. And no, I think that's about 3 years ago now that 2.3.5 came out. And I've been a technologist my entire life. I'm a neurodivergent. I've been on a keyboard since the age of 7. I knew how to write C+ when I was little. I could program before I could write my alphabet. right? Like, I probably still can't write the alphabet coherently for somebody to read it. So I've been with computers my whole life, and I'm on record saying that I don't think AR is the solution, not VR, and AI is not here yet. But then AI got here really fast and changed.
Mm-hmm.
Instantly knew when I saw 3.5 when we left 2.0, and we were stuff like Jarvis and things like that were clunky.
Yep.
That the world was going to change in a way because it was different, instantly different than every query that I've ever run. And I'm a technologist, so I went to MIT for their AI for Business program, and because I'm a boxing coach, I'm neuroflow coaching trained, and a lot of these things, and I see all these similarities, and I'm sitting back and I'm seeing a time in our life that is different than any other time.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize that I was doing when I was doing it, but when I wrote my book, Reclaim Sobriety, about my addiction problems, at the end of the day, the book is all about self-identity. And I know that those people on the tram in their suits identify as an accountant, a bookkeeper, a business person, insurance agent, and none of those jobs exist next year. Right? So I believe this topic of self-identity and faith and carving my own path is more important today than it's ever been. Right.
Really good.
And how are we going to do that? And how are we going to usher people in? Because we've had hundreds of years of teaching people, this is your assembly line, and I need you.
Right.
The government needed you to not think about it.
Come on.
Right? And we didn't. But we're in a
What's
new
that?
day, and people can play and have fun and do things, but they're scared, right? You have 7 kids. What are you telling them?
I'm teaching them that AI is going to be their best friend. Like I've taught them. So we homeschool because some of what you said about the government and the assembly line is exactly the reason I said I don't want to necessarily expose you to that. I've told people, and I don't mean to be offensive, but I want to raise within my control. I want to raise employers. I don't want to raise employees. And I think that school system really does a wonderful job of breeding people who can work for you. And the world needs it. I get it. But with AI,
Needed it.
need it. Thank you, better. Yes, because with AI, I've said these words to my kids. My oldest is 13, my youngest is 2, so they're not very old. And I've told them, hey, your future is about being you're not going to be a doer, you're going to be a director, is how I've said it to them. So because I think the art of the prompt is going to become a real thing, and figuring out
I
how
don't
to.
think so. I think it's gone.
What do you mean?
I think we're going to spoken language.
I see. So like digitally prompting it and just having a full blown convo about what you're trying to accomplish.
I had a realization last night
Okay.
that every programming language, HTML, Cobalt, C++, all of those are a human extraction layer for humans to be able to visualize what the computer's doing underneath. If we can
Yep.
get an interface to voice, then to voice to computer, we don't need any of those languages. So, and I don't think that that's more than a year away.
Wow.
Because
Awesome.
it's changing so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the prompt engineer job, like a year ago, we were telling our kids prompt engineering, right? That's what you need
Yeah.
to do. And I think that AI is already the best prompt engineer.
That's a good point, actually. Prompt the prompt. Yeah, yeah.
Like, make me a prompt that does this. I'm typing that now. So I believe that we are 100%. I think the next operating system is 100% voice to
Wow.
video or voice to display. And I don't see a way around it because it's there. So it's so nice.
I think you're right. I could totally see that.
Alexa on steroids.
Yeah, I 100% could see that. I'm telling my kids, and now I'm going to change what I'm telling my kids. I'm going to tell them that they're going to have to be able to explain and articulate what they want done,
The
because now you don't even
orchestration
have
and
to
the
type it.
direction, I think, is 100% on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you.
100%, because what because we're going to get paid for our decision-making ability, because intelligence is the ability to hold multiple ideas as truth. So the decision-making possibility is going to be ethics and morals, and this AI does these things, and this AI does these things.
Yep.
It's going to get wild really, really quick,
That's cool.
right?
Yeah.
Like,
I am excited for that. I think you're right. And I think anybody who doesn't believe that it's trending that way is the same as the farmer who believed that their livestock pulling the plow was more effective than that silly tractor, you know? But this is like warp speed compared to that.
I will say that anybody in 2025, and this is October of 2025 that we're shooting this, that doesn't believe that AI is going to be everywhere, just go to thronescience.com and you'll see a toilet AI system that takes pictures and measures your discharge daily and tells you how healthy you are. If you're hydrated, not healthy, gut health, all those things. That's available today for $300, right?
Wow.
With a $10 a month subscription fee. So, I mean, we have AI in our toilet right now. It's available,
Incredible. I will for sure after this show go to thronescience.com, but
right? Like, it's there, it's here, and it's coming so fast. I think it's going to come to mankind as very intuitively, just like it has over the past 2 years, right? As we rolled this out, we've seen new videos. We have a lot of trust issues going on in the world, for sure. What I'm concerned about mostly is, what are the people going to do? How are they going to find faith? And how are we going to help mankind get through this? What are we going to do for the displaced employees? And I don't know that answer. It's scary.
Yeah, I don't have that answer either.
The hope is that AI gives us that answer.
Fair.
Like that's the current hope. And I know that there's a lot of people out there really, really pushing on that.
Yeah.
Matt, you do Reconstructing Wealth.
Yes.
Let's talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, we could talk about that, excuse me, with the context of AI.
Yeah.
So it's a wealth management firm.
Right? They need to know how to do that.
Financial planning, wealth management, investment management. There's 315,000 advisors in the country. So like it's an industry as old as time. So you don't usually think wealth management and technology necessarily, although some people with like Robinhood and all the other like technological advances think like, oh yeah, there's a little bit of advancement in that where like I can have investing on my phone. That wasn't back in the day, that wasn't even a thing. But what I will say is that it has enabled me to be a much, much more impactful advisor because I can work through long documents much more quickly. I can explain things probably in a way that I would not have been able to articulate as clearly, as quickly as needed. But the other part is, from an investment management standpoint, so many, and this is not, I mean, I'm not intentionally not talking down my industry. Shoot, I'm in the industry. I started a business in it because it feels like such a calling. So I don't want people to take this as like me hating on the industry, but the majority of the industry, going back to the reason I didn't want to join it when I was offered the opportunity over about a decade ago, was that most do it the same way, which is like, I'm going to talk to you about all the risk tolerance questions and your timeline of when you might need the money. And I'm going to input all your data into the computer, and the computer is basically going to spit out some, industry term asset allocation, like some bucket of some varying degree of mutual funds or index funds that are from conservative to aggressive on the spectrum, depending on the answers to your questions. And we're going to meet once a year and talk about the funds, and the funds have managers around the country that are doing their thing. And I just didn't want to be that because I felt like that's a middleman industry. And to your point about like AI, I mean, shoot, even before AI, Amazon eliminated so many middlemen. And I realized like, I don't want to intentionally join a middleman industry when I feel like the world is going away from middlemen. And it was this investment strategy. It's in a book called Dancing with the Analyst, if anybody's interested, by a guy named David Malik. It was introduced to me because I actually said no at first, because for those reasons, when I was asked to join the industry. Then I read that book. I learned the investment strategy. It's individual stocks. It's a lot of fun, and it makes you feel like, not makes you feel, you do have actual horses in the race, and I get to be the advisor that's actually buying and selling on clients' behalf with a disciplined, emotionalist, like data-driven strategy that people, I think most importantly, people understand. And I think like the lack of clarity is probably the biggest hindrance to people's relationships with money. Most people I talk to have horrible relationships with finances. But when you can be really clear, horrible is the wrong word, have unhealthy relationships with money. And when you can really be clear, but most of that, and I'll get into this in a minute, maybe, but really what I've learned is that that's a lack of knowledge. It's a fear of the unknown is really what it boils down to. So like when I can articulate an investment strategy to say, hey, we're going to own these companies. Here's why. Here's when we sell them. Here's why. Here's what we're going to buy after we sell something. And people get it. And they're like, oh, cool. I like that. That creates this degree of confidence because clarity breeds confidence, especially with money. But using AI, like you are a coder. Like you told me you've been able to write code before you could say the alphabet. I've never written a line of code in my whole life as it stands. But with AI being the great equalizer, I had this vision of taking this investment strategy and running like a 5-year back test. Basically say like, run the investment strategy, but actually do it in the past so we know the date because we have the actual return data, and run it in a way to say, you were perfect for 5 straight years. It's an impossibility, but it was going to tell me the maximum potential of the strategy. But I learned it's a pretty complicated test to run because there ended up being a lot of variables because there's different purchase and sell dates. There's available. Anyway, I spent probably a couple hundred hours using Cursor. It's an AI tool. It's a prompt to code tool that a friend of mine told me about. Again, I have zero coding knowledge, but I fumbled with that tool for a couple hundred hours. So you say, if I knew what I was doing as an engineer, maybe it took half the time. I don't know. Maybe it would have taken even less, but still call it 100 hours of work at what a software engineer gets paid. I don't know, $300, $500 an hour. I'm making that up, but like that's a $30,000 to $50,000 project that with AI, I was able to figure out, it cost me time, but it was a powerful tool that now gives me this like wild enhanced data decision-making for future purchases. Like that was the whole purpose of it, was to say, can I identify what was perfect? Can I now use AI to run correlations on those perfect companies, both private data that I have, public data that Chat and Claude can get access to, because I've got this hit list of 47 perfect companies over 5 years. Anyway, it was a really, 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 what turned out to be a really powerful, fun and exercise and experience that like I have zero knowledge of technically, but still was able to build it.
It's amazing.
So yeah, amazing. So like being able to do things like that in my world are like, I don't know what the future is going to hold, but like I can only see it getting better, not worse.
Yeah. I don't talk about this very often. I went to school for film and video, which also means that audio engineering is part of film and video. So
Sure.
I've always had a hobby of producing audio here and there. Not a lot, but producing audio. I've got a studio, I've got a sound booth and all that stuff, and I've always enjoyed it. I released my first album that I produced, Cradle to Grave, 2 weeks ago, and I produced the entire album voice prompt. And I just wanted to test to see if I could do it. Every single lyric, every single snare drop, bass drum, everything was me talking with my computer back and forth, saying, let's add a horn section here. Let's do that there.
Wow.
Still very clunky, but I had my Kanban set up in a way that I was able to do that. And there's some bangers.
Wow.
It was a ton of fun. And I was able to produce an entire 13-song album with voice prompts from cradle to grave all the way to publishing.
Oof.
And having it live on Spotify with me maybe 10% of the time using the keyboard to push a button here or doing something else. So
amazing. The ultimate equalizer.
It's coming. I made a post, a tweet probably 8 months ago that said, in 10 years, I'll be able to direct a movie by voice. And I think I was off by a bunch.
Yeah, probably.
I think it's next year. So
Phew, that is wild.
what role do passive income streams, real estate, royalties, etc., play in your framework, and how early do you introduce them?
It's interesting. That's a big topic online. If you go on social media, on Instagram or whatever, you probably think you should invest in multifamilies, and then you should probably invest in large apartment buildings, but then you should probably flip single families. It's everywhere. People talk about millionaires having 7 passive income streams. Here's what I will say, and this is what I coach clients on, anybody that's willing to listen, to be quite honest with you. True wealth is built in concentration. That's just the reality of it. Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, you name whatever CEO, they built their wealth building a business, doing one thing exceptionally well, among the best in the world at that one thing. When you have built wealth, then you can spread it. You know, the industry fund term is diversify, although sometimes that's well overused. Like, I think what you're doing is now you're taking your wealth and finding other ways to multiply it, to grow it, to produce, to basically have it produce more babies, you know? But the overwhelming majority of people I've ever spoken with, worked with, admired, and mentored by, study, they build wealth doing one thing. I think the biggest miss is distracted growth, like distracted focus. You know, it's not that people aren't focused on trying to do thing, it's a distracted focus. And that will kill them because they feel like they're supposed to buy a rental property, or they're supposed to invest in whatever lifetime income stream that someone's saying to them, become an Amazon storefront reseller or something. And honestly, it's not that those things are bad, but they're distracting you from what hopefully that thing is that's producing you the most income, that if you got better at that thing, the returns on that would be, it far exceed any passive income stream you're talking about. So I would say, like, for the most of my clients, most of them are in their late 20s to early 50s. Like, we're in the growing season of life. We're building wealth in concentration. We're not trying to figure out what the next best real estate syndication is to find yet. Maybe there's a place and time and place for it. But the truth is, like, if you have distracted focus, I will beat you because I'm locked in on one thing. I saw this exercise once, and I'll leave it at this. If you count 1 to 26, the average person could do it somewhere in 8 and 12 seconds, somewhere in there. So go A through Z, the alphabet, similar time frame. Now go 1A, 2B, 3C, 4D, 5E. Try to do that. The average to complete that is about 1.5 minutes, because it's a distracted focus, right? And I think very many people see those shiny objects and they get screwed because they're trying to do what they think they're supposed to do, when the reality is double down, triple down on that thing that you're gifted at and that you're great at. And a time and place, you will have plenty of money to spread out and have passive income.
Yeah. I want to talk about supposed to, but before we talk about supposed to and that mindset, I want to go back because I have somebody in the wealth management world, and I think this is always a good conversation to have for people. It's educational, and I think it's very important. You called yourself an advisor a couple of times. Can you tell us the difference between an advisor, a broker, and a fiduciary, and why they're important?
Yeah, an advisor, fiduciary, they're industry terms that I probably shouldn't even have said that, thinking about it. They are all potentially one and the same, potentially. And that's the hard part about my world, is that, like, it's really good at being confusing. I think that's a big problem in my industry. We're really good at confusing people, which I don't think is helpful. So a broker is affiliated with some mothership, some big firm, some big bank. And a lot of the stuff has to work through that big firm. And think of, like, in real estate, there are these big real estate brokerages, Century 21 or Keller Williams, or I don't know, wherever you are in the country, there's probably signs you see. Those are the big brokerage firms, but, like, the individual agents have to run business through the brokerage firm. So a broker is tied to probably one of those big, in my world, one of those big banks typically. An advisor can work in any capacity. So here's what I will say. I think if you're ever confused, follow the money. That'll help answer the questions. How advisors are paid are three different types, three ways. You're either paid a commission only. Those are the people who are only going to put you in products that pay them in the form of a commission, whether it's a life insurance policy or an annuity or a mutual fund or something that's paying them in a commission. They're going to tell you that you don't have to pay me anything. I work out of the marketing budget of these big giant firms, the biggest and baddest firms in the world. They pay me, so it's no cost to you. They're going to pay me, which is an attractive sell, except that unless it's well disclosed, you just have to understand that everything that you're in is because they're getting paid. So like you have to really just be very mindful on why you're in the things you're in. I don't think getting paid a commission is a problem. I think not disclosing the transparency on why you're using what you're using and how it's going to pay you, I think that's where the problem is. So that's one end of the spectrum. Commission only advisor, fee only advisor is what I am. It's the other end of the spectrum, which means by law, we have to refuse any form of commissionable payment. So we can only be paid in the form of a fee, an agreement with me and you, me and the client. So I can't, even if I offered you a life insurance policy, I can't get paid on it. I can recommend it, but I can't be paid on it. I could put you in a fund if I used mutual funds, which I don't, but if I did, I could put you in a fund that does pay a commission. I just couldn't get paid the commission. To me, I'm there because it's the most transparent and it already eliminates any question marks. It takes it off the table. Like the question is, are you putting me in this policy, this whatever it is, because you're getting paid or because it's best for me? That question is eliminated for fee-only advisors because they can't get paid in the form of commission.
Exactly.
The majority of advisors sit right in the middle, though. They're called fee-based, and they can straddle the fence. They can get paid a commission, and they can get paid in form of a fee.
Okay.
And if you probably speak to an advisor, that's probably the majority of them.
And commissions are okay.
Totally.
Absolutely okay. It's not a scary thing. It's a way
No.
that people make money. But I want everybody to understand this very, very clearly. If the VIG comes from your cut, you are the product.
Mm.
And if those who don't know what a VIG is, it's the commission that a bookie gets, or it's the interest that a loan shark gets. If the VIG comes from your cut, you're the product. It's that simple. You are the revenue generating machine for that person. So keep that in mind when you're moving forward. There's some things that I don't think you can buy outside of a broker, right? There's things that you're going to get into that if you want them, the broker is going to get commission on them. So I'm not saying that it's evil. I'm just saying understand the court that you're playing the game on.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
That's
Yes.
all I'm
Agreed.
saying.
And one last term, you said fiduciary. That's just an industry term that means I'm legally obligated to put your interests before mine. That's it, which actually should be every decision. But unfortunately, in my world, the finance world, the only advisor that 100% of the time is legally a fiduciary is that fee-only advisor. They're the only one that is legally obligated 100% of the time to be a fiduciary. The others can be, but aren't legally bound to be.
Yeah. So ask that question. Are you legally
Yeah.
bound to put my best interest first? Other things that like a doctor is supposed to do no harm, a lawyer is supposed to put your best interest before their own. That's like,
Yep. Yep.
there's industries that is the case and it's the law. So, and my experience is that people that have those restraints or systems in place honor them at a very, very high level. So, I think that fiduciaries and advisors put my best interest first. And if I were to have an advisor, that's the path that I would take. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to talk about supposed to. Why do we think this shit? Why do we think we're supposed to do something? Has it been programmed into us? Is it out of fear? Like it's never been something that I've had. I've always needed or wanted something and figured out how to get it. I've never thought about this is what I'm supposed to do. So this mindset escapes me and I see it in humanity all the time.
Wow. Good for you. I think that's phenomenal. It's a mindset that if I don't work to unwire and continually unwire, that it will just slowly creep back into me. And to me, it comes from just, I think, the environment I grew up in and understanding that, like, I think what my parents and the people that I guess were role models in my life, how they lived and what they taught me was like, this is the path that is the path that you should walk. And why should? I actually can't answer why I should. I think the answer why is because everybody else does, which if I really want to walk back that path is like, I'm that person going up the escalator with everybody else. And I feel like it's the right thing to do. So it's funny that I even have that in me because I recognize that I don't want to be that person. So I think the awareness of it is a really healthy thing. And I think most of my life, as you can tell, I haven't lived the should and supposed to path, but it's in there. And I got it personally from just my upbringing, my family, everybody in my life. I just kind of acknowledge and observe anybody who's anybody in my life, and I see their path and they all are the same. And I'm like, I guess that's the path I'm supposed to walk to.
Not only does it make me uncomfortable, it makes me want to scream when
It's
when
awesome.
I feel like I'm just doing what everybody else is doing. It makes my skin crawl.
I love it.
It's not something that I'm good at. And maybe it's why I'm destined to be an entrepreneur and it's
Yeah,
the life
really
that I've
good.
lived. But
I
yeah,
also think I get this from you. I get the feeling that you are somebody who is very comfortable beating to your own drum and you don't care what other people think about you. And I think that's a minority of people, myself included. Like I care way too much about people liking me. And I think of course that's okay in some respects. Like you don't just want to be a jerk and not care about it. But I think it affects the life decisions maybe that I make or a lot of people make.
it's funny, Matt. I spend a lot of time alone. I spend a lot of time with people too, but I spend a lot of time isolated. And I look for maybe I'm so delusional that I have no enemies and nobody says anything bad about me, or I'm never embarrassed, or I'm so delusional that I just block it all out. Right. So, and I do look for those things to care about humanity and stuff like that. So I don't think that it's that I don't care about what people think. I've understood that they won't care for very long.
Awesome.
I'm always a passing thought in their head. I'm
That's really
never going to
good.
take a whole lot of real estate anyway. So my job as an entrepreneur is to get into their head as much as I possibly can. And
That's really
that's
good.
that's the position I try to come from is if I can get into their head with one thing, then I can embed my other messages of, you know, equality and human engagement and those other kinds of topics.
It's really
Uh,
good.
my big goal right now is a symbiotic relationship with technology.
Mm,
I have a really big fear of humanity backlash to technology,
mm.
and I'll lose the toy that helps me communicate with the planet.
Yeah.
Is my own selfish need. But anyway, Matt, it's been a joy talking with you today.
So good, man. Thank you.
If somebody wanted to work with you, where are they at in their journey? Are they, have they started saving? Do they have a 401k? Are they not in a like, where are they at in their journey right now on thinking about their wealth growth and things like that? What's the ceiling and what's the floor for your business? And then, how do they get started on that journey with you?
Yes. I'll answer the second one first because it's easiest is you could just send me a note. Either go onto my website, reconstructingwealth.com and fill out the contact page. You can find me on Instagram, which is just my name, Matt Morizio. Send me a DM. However you want to get in touch with me, you get in touch with me. We can start the journey like that. The first question, how do I know when at a point where I want to work with somebody like me? To me, first you feel like you have this calling on your life, right? Like I don't do well working with people who think they're supposed to work a 9 to 5 for 40 years and then have a 401k and then live off the 401k and then kick because there's 315,000 advisors, like I said, or 20, however many thousand. You can find plenty of advisors that feel like they can coach you very well on that. My life, my body of work, who I am, how I'm wired, I don't do well serving that person because I don't think the same way most of the time. So I would say, first off, you feel like you have a really big calling on your life. Second off, you might like the idea of doing it yourself with your money because you want to know what's happening, but you aren't comfortable doing it yourself with your money. And you need a guide and somebody who will come alongside you, teach you, coach you, help you get better with it, learn how the game of money works so you can be more effective with it, use it as a tool, use it for its purpose. Don't let it be this like burden over you. But know that like to bridge that gap from where you're at to where you feel called to go, money will be a giant engine that you don't feel comfortable figuring out yet. And you don't feel like you have a handle on how to get there. And then I come in and help kind of be that guide along the way, along the journey. That's how I see my role. I think like I am not the ivory tower advisor that like without me, you can't figure it out. Shoot, you can just type whatever question you have about money into chat and it's going to give you a great answer. So I'm not there because I have answers ChatGPT doesn't have. You know what I mean?
Right. So you're going to help with the hand holding. It's scary sometimes, like, especially in the crypto world, like transferring crypto from one place to another is really scary.
Yep.
And anytime you're dealing with large transactions, closing out an IRA and moving it to anytime, those things are nerve wracking from time to time. Like, so having just somebody with you to kind of guide you through and hold your hand and understand how to, look at the ledgers and make sure the transactions are going through properly. And, that those moments where you have to hold your breath, to have somebody holding your breath with you, it's sometimes worth it. Way to go.
There are really like two, as I think more about it, there's two like real like points of people in their life that that I've kind of crossed paths with them. And it is along the lines of fear, although it's not necessarily transferring crypto specifically, but like to your point, it's that fear of like, my money has hit a point where it feels heavy to me now and I'm nervous with it. And that's relative to that person in their life. And they feel like at this point, I don't want to be the person driving the bus anymore. And that's somebody who's probably growing and realizing like my life also has gotten big and I need to focus on something. And that's the other person actually. So that bleeds into who the second person is. Second person is that like growth-minded individual that says like, I know I could do all this on my own, but that's going to distract my focus from me doing the thing that I'm great at. So instead, I want to entrust somebody with a process that I believe in to go do the thing for me so that I can really stay here in my lane and do the thing that I feel called to do.
Yeah, I've hit some home runs and I've made some giant mistakes. My philosophy is leave it all on the table until I die. I hope I die on an upcycle for my family.
I love it. I like it. Go big or go home.
My philosophy my whole life, and it's played pretty well this far, and it is still all on the table. Although I think I'm going to pull some house money off here in 26.
That's awesome. You say that now, but you'll see how 26 comes.
There's going to be a lot of infrastructure that needs to be built for this planet. And so I think it needs to stay on the table for a little bit longer, but who knows?
That's cool.
Matt, thank you so much for joining us today. I've had a blast. It comes to the time of the show where Diary of a CEO is my favorite podcast. And Stephen was so kind that at the end of every podcast, he asked his guests to write a question for the next guest. And he was kind enough to write all of them down and sell a deck of cards. And I bought them. Are you ready for your question?
I've been looking forward to this moment. Not that I was looking forward to the end of talking with you. You know what I mean.
This question is from Simon Sinek.
Okay.
What advice did you get from someone earlier in your career that you followed, but now in hindsight, wish you hadn't, and why?
Wow. Holy smokes. All right. Well, I guess I'll share the first one that really comes to my mind. And it's not necessarily a career, but it is life. It has served me. But the more I grow, the more I'm learning that this maybe thing that I thought served me is also hindering me. And here's what it is. When I was young, I'm telling like pre-high school, middle school, elementary school, I was never allowed to sleep in. My mother my parents divorced when I was young, and my mom was a single mom. My dad wasn't out of my life. It was just that I spent more time in that home than with him. So she would wake us up, even on the weekends, my brother and I, super early, because she preached hard work, hard work, hard work, hard work. No sleeping in, no lazy, no lazy, no late, no sleeping in. Like that was just pounded into my mind. Work hard, work hard, work hard, work hard, which I do love my work ethic. And I attribute so much of it to that. But as I grow in life and in the business world, and I meet more people that I'm really impressed by, I've learned that what I didn't know, I thought hard work equals success. And sure, hard work is part of the equation. It needs to be. Like, you can't be lazy and be successful. So I want to say it, like, I'm grateful for that part. But there's so much unwinding in my mind and my psyche that I need to do to remind and teach myself that the hardest worker in the room isn't the most successful person in the room. Otherwise, we'd see a world full of multimillionaire roofers and laborers. That's just not the way the world works. Like, you have to be impactful, and the size of the problem you solve typically correlates and translates into the size of the paycheck you receive. So for me, I'm like, I have this burning desire now to like rewire, not work less hard, but work hard at impactful stuff. I want to be more impactful than busy. I think my wiring is like, busy is good, be busy. And now I used to wear busyness as a badge of honor. Like, I didn't sleep. I worked off a million hours. Like, that was me. I'm a hustler. And now I'm like, no, man, if you don't have control of your time and you don't know the impact you're trying to make in this world, that busyness is not a badge of honor. It's a lack of control of schedule. And that's not attractive to me anymore. So that's a real like, and I love you, Mom. It's not that you did anything wrong with me. I'm just learning and growing.
I love it. The hustle culture is dangerous and it's needed, but I think balance is something that needs to be taught earlier in life. But hustle to get to where you want to be to win in life is something that needs to be taught. I just think the balance is something that we need to explore more in early childhood.
Wait, what about you?
For me, I was gonna say in 2016, I sent a letter to some shareholders in a company that I have and saying, hey, I think we should stop mining Bitcoin and just hold for a while. And they told me to sell the Bitcoin. So I sold about 150 Bitcoin in 2016 for $800 a piece.
I don't mean to laugh. If
But
I don't laugh, I'll cry.
I would say that's a story that came to mind first. But you
Pretty
said a
good.
story about your mom, so I'm gonna match you there. I have a lot of neurodivergencies. I grew up in the 70s and the 80s. They really didn't know what to do with me. So I was in the LD classes, was what they called them at the time, learning disability classes, right? So I would go to the normal kid class. And then when it came to reading, science, math, history, I would go to the SSD kids groups. And this was challenging on me. And I was adopted and all kinds of other stuff. So I had childhood was wild for me. And my mom would say, it doesn't matter what they think. And I know why she told me that then.
Mm-hmm.
And it helped me then. But what she did not prepare me for in business then was that perception is everything. And it does matter what the other people think. And that it's my responsibility to be the man that I want to be and then put my perception out there and own my perception. And then whatever they think about me is on them. I don't care about that. But, at the time it was just definitely, I was a life living. I had no direction in life for a very, very long time. So
Wow.
that it doesn't matter what they think for a young person that's struggling. I understand why you would tell somebody that.
Yeah.
But for long term, I think having that mindset is a dangerous mindset to have. So
Yeah.
it's needed, but again, balance, I think, is where we need to get. And if you
Wow.
were given advice that you lived by your entire life, and then in hindsight, you're looking at it and saying, man, I probably put too much effort into that particular line of advice, didn't find the balance in it, we'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments. Matt,
Yeah.
thank you so
That
much.
would be cool to see. That's a really good question.
It is a good question. It's a hard one.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time today, Matt. We appreciate it.
Man, thank you so much, Ken. This has been awesome.